Below is the voiceover script for your YouTube video, formatted with proper punctuation, pauses, and hooks to engage the audience, incorporating the channel name Bup Stories where appropriate. I've kept the text exactly as provided, only adjusting spacing, formatting for voiceover delivery, and adding hooks to maintain audience engagement. Translate this, and my salary is yours, Caldwell announced with a smug grin, holding up a thick document like it was a game. Asterisk, how far would you go to prove someone wrong? Stay tuned to find out on Bup Stories. Asterisk, the room broke into a wave of laughter, sharp, indulgent, elitist. The marble floor of the Caldwell estate's formal dining room practically hummed with arrogance. Maya Carter stood by the wet bar, wiping down a crystal decanter. She paused, not because she was shocked she was used to being underestimated, but because she recognized the tone in Ethan's voice. It wasn't a joke. It was a dare, a performance. She turned slowly, wiping her hands on the side of her apron. If I translated before sunrise, she said, her voice even but edged with defiance, will you give me a raise? The laughter paused, just for a beat. Ethan blinked. It wasn't the response he expected. Then he smirked. A raise, Maya? If you manage to translate that correctly, I'll double your salary, he said, chuckling as he tossed the heavy bundle onto the table with a dramatic flair. It's a binding contract from Lisbon, Portuguese, full of legal and engineering terms. Trust me, Google won't help you. Maya stepped forward, her chin held high. We'll see. Diane Winters, the CFO, arched an eyebrow and sipped her wine. Careful, Ethan. You might actually lose this one. She's bluffing, Ethan said, still laughing, though a hint of caution crept into his tone. It's worth millions. It took our legal team 2 weeks to review. No offense, Maya, but you clean baseboards. This isn't a vacuum manual. The board members chuckled again, more uncomfortably this time. Maya met Ethan's eyes and didn't look away. No offense taken, she said. But you'd be surprised what people like me read when no one's watching. Asterisk, what secret skills are hiding in plain sight? Keep watching Bup Stories to uncover Maya's next move. Asterisk, the tension shifted, subtle, like a draft entering a sealed room. Ethan lifted his bourbon glass, gave a mock toast, and said to Maya, may ambition never meet reality. She took the document and walked out without another word. Behind her, the room fell into hushed murmurs. One of the younger execs leaned over and whispered, she's got guts. She's got no shot, Ethan said under his breath. But the edge in his voice betrayed something else, something Maya had already seen, uncertainty. Back in the servants' hallway, Maya laid the document down on the worn formica counter of the staff kitchen. She ran her fingers over the embossed seal. It was, as he said, in Portuguese, thick legal phrasing, technical specs, data rights, clause references. She didn't flinch. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a small, dog-eared Portuguese-English dictionary. Then, she took out her old laptop, plugged it in, and opened a folder labeled Universidade de Coimbra, Linguística Avançada. Because what Ethan didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that before she cleaned his floors, Maya had spent 10 years as a language researcher in Brazil and Portugal. Life had knocked her off course, but it hadn't erased what she knew. She dialed a number. Louise, it's me. I need your eyes on a contract tonight. By midnight, Maya had broken down the first section. By 2 a.m., she was cross-referencing clauses and underlining inconsistencies. There was a troubling subsection about international data access. By 4 a.m., she'd annotated every risk buried in the fine print. Outside, Atlanta's sky began to shift dark blue, giving way to hints of dawn. Maya leaned back in her chair. Her fingers were ink-stained. Her coffee had gone cold. But she was ready. She wasn't the maid tonight. She was the only one who truly understood what that contract meant. And soon, they would too. If you felt something from Maya's story, hit like to show your support and drop a comment with where you're watching from on Bup Stories. You might be surprised who's nearby sharing this moment with you. The early light of dawn crept through Maya's thin curtains, casting long shadows across her cluttered living room. She hadn't slept. Her fingers were stiff from typing, translating, and cross-referencing. The air was heavy with the scent of stale coffee, but Maya didn't notice. Her eyes were locked on the final paragraph of her annotated translation. The document wasn't just dangerous, it was deceptive. Buried deep in the legalese was a clause granting full access to Caldwell Technologies' encryption algorithms, proprietary data, trade secrets, and network infrastructure to an overseas shell company. On the surface, it looked like a standard partnership, but underneath, it was a slow bleed dressed in legitimate language. She saved the file, printed a copy, and neatly paper-clipped the pages together. Her eyes drifted to the photograph on her bookshelf. It was old and slightly faded, Maya in a graduation robe, flanked by two professors from the University of Lisbon. Her hair was shorter then, her smile wider. In her hands was a thesis on polyglot cognitive structure and the evolution of legal semantics in Romance languages. That was another life, another Maya. Back then, she'd been Dr. Maya Carter, the keynote speaker at international conferences, the rising star in multilingual forensics. She had published papers, mentored doctoral students, worked on government translation commissions. And then came 2008, a scandal in her department she wasn't part of but took the fall for: budget cuts, a visa complication, her tenure offer rescinded. 2 years later, her savings drained, her green card in limbo, Maya took a housekeeping job in Atlanta to keep her head above water. Caldwell Estate was supposed to be temporary. 15 years later, she was still dusting the awards of men she once could have out-argued in 3 languages. She folded the printed translation and slipped it into a manila envelope. Across town, the Caldwell Estate was slowly waking up. Staff bustled through corridors, fluffing pillows and arranging breakfast trays. Maya arrived through the back entrance, wearing her uniform, holding her envelope close to her chest like a shield. The security guard nodded at her without interest. In the kitchen, she poured a cup of coffee and waited. "Morning, Maya," Olivia, one of the younger housekeepers, said, yawning. "You look intense." "Just didn't sleep much," Maya replied with a faint smile. "You know Mr. Caldwell's got that early board meeting, right? All the suits are already up in the main dining room." "Perfect," Maya said. Upstairs, Ethan Caldwell stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his cufflinks. His eyes were bloodshot, his breath still tinged with last night's whiskey. He hadn't slept well either, though he'd never admit it. Part of him wondered if Maya would even show up again. He hoped she wouldn't. That would make it easier to laugh off the whole thing. When he entered the dining room, the board was already gathered. Diane Winters was reviewing documents. 2 junior VPs argued over an earnings report. And then Maya appeared at the double doors, calm, composed, carrying the envelope. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You're really going through with this?" Maya walked in and set the envelope on the table in front of him. "I said I'd do my best," she replied. "I did." He opened the envelope casually, not expecting much. Then he paused. The paper was covered in tight, clean handwriting, annotations, references, cross-sections of legal clauses with corresponding notes in English and Portuguese. It wasn't Google Translate gibberish. It was surgical, professional, devastating. Diane leaned over and skimmed a few pages, her brows furrowed. Where did she get this phrasing? These terms are accurate, spot on. Ethan's smirk faded slightly. Maya took a breath. The clause under Section 14.3, it allows full encryption key transfer upon the second renewal of partnership without notification. That includes Caldwell's proprietary database structures and IP routing systems. In layman's terms, you're giving away your architecture. Silence fell over the room. One of the board members, a former attorney, flipped through the pages with rising alarm. She's right. I didn't catch this. None of us did. Ethan turned slowly, eyes narrowing. Where did you learn this? Who helped you? No one, Maya replied evenly. I had help reviewing some legal language, but the translation, that's mine. Diane looked at Maya with a new measure of respect. You're not just a maid. I'm someone who's been invisible for a long time, Maya said. But that doesn't mean I stopped knowing things. Ethan tapped the envelope. This could have cost me everything.